celebrate and recognize everything that's already been going on our campus on a daily basis, including kiddos. So I approached our student council, who is here to represent, these are officers, and I said, hey, what do you guys want to do for Inclusive Schools Week? And everything you're about to see is their idea. They planned it, they implemented it, it was all hands off. So I also want to thank our two sponsors, who are Tracy Koenig back here and Sunny Meek, for helping to facilitate this. But I'm going to turn it over to them. They're going to introduce themselves and then tell you what they have planned for this week.
Hi, my name is Neely Richardson. In this week, during announcements each day, we will be recognizing the different staff groups for all of their efforts to include all students.
My name is Courtney Higginbotham. On Monday, we are going to recognize the paraprofessional staff. On Tuesday, the administrators and teachers. Wednesday, the office staff. Thursday, the students. And on Friday, the operations staff.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Brown. During advisory on Wednesday, everyone is going to watch a video by Stu Cape on inclusion. He is a motivational speaker, and we saw him at the Texas Association of Student Council State Conference back in November. The idea behind this video is to always be a big elephant, the bigger person. The big elephant is someone who stands up for others and always helps the little guy. That can help be given in many different ways. Here are just a few examples of what it looks like on our campus.
I try to connect with everyone on campus by being a good listener and encouraging them to always have a voice.
I try to make other people feel included by inviting them to eat lunch with me.
I include other students by working together.
I feel included when I get to work in groups with my friends during class.
Go.
I feel supported when I'm being encouraged.
Hi, when greeting students, I do my absolute best to smile and be happy and excited, and I love doing fist bumps and high fives.
I try to make everyone feel included by greeting all kids with a smile and trying my best to remember their names.
1. I include others by comforting them and trying to make them feel better. I always feel included when others share their effective teaching strategies with me.
I always try including people by welcoming them into our group of friends.
I feel included when people help do stuff.
I always feel included at La Vernia Junior High because I have braille signs to help me navigate.
I feel included when we all can play together on athletics.
Otros se sienten incluidos cuando yo hablo su idioma. Others feel included when I speak their language.
I feel included when teachers bring me back on track with my grades.
I make everyone feel included by welcoming them all with a smile.
Then, after everybody watches the video, we will stop to reflect on what it feels like to be left out and discuss some other things we can do to include all
also doing some advertising about All-Inclusive Schools Week by hanging a banner outside the school and by sending a little blurb through the school messenger.
Thank you so much, guys. That was awesome. All right, Ms. Wonderlist from the high school.
Hi, thank you for having us this evening. Basically, our activities at the high school are going to include are very similar this week through our third period classes. We have video of school announcements. So on our announcements today, there was the blurb just basically saying what inclusive schools means. It goes beyond disability. It's accepting others, as we've said already, accepting others on different ethnic beliefs, different cultural backgrounds, different genders, different races. And so that's kind of what we're branching out at the high school to reinforce that aspect of it. That's great at the intermediate with activities that and I think that's why it makes it so easy at the high school, because there's so much exposure to it on a daily basis at the intermediate. So it's not as much of a struggle for us at the high school as it might be at the lower levels. I just shared a PowerPoint with James that was going to be part. I don't know if you got it, but I'm working with Ms. Ellis to try and what that PowerPoint highlights are 5 major ways to create an inclusive environment at your school. And it was a recap of a lot of what the junior high was doing about eating lunch with somebody you don't normally know. Just simply saying high five to somebody that you don't talk to every day. I mean, saying hello and giving them a high five. Inviting different people to sit with you and your group of friends at lunch or during free time. And then tomorrow there's going to be a video, I don't know, it's Kid Prez. It's this little comedian, and it's like Wake Up America. We need to do something different to make our country a better place. And the video is focusing on being accepting of others and you being the change, and that everybody can be successful and everybody can make a contribution. We do have signs up. The student council made a bulletin board. At the end of the week, the video is going to be recapping on students telling, and there's a handout, it has a hand that says, what are you going to do to be more inclusive of others? And they can sign that, and those hands will be cut out and added to our bulletin board.
Thank you so much for all that information. It's just great to see the different ways that each school has taken it upon themselves to make sure that they're really celebrating. And it's like was mentioned earlier by Ms. Pruitt, I believe, it really does go hand in hand with the Rachel's Challenge work that we're doing and the work that each of the Friends of Rachel Club, the 4 clubs, are doing at each of the campuses. So it's exciting to see that. Ms. Merkel, I believe you had a proclamation for consideration by the board as well. It was in the packet for consideration to proclaim this week Inclusive Schools Week in Vernia ISD.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to the students and staff. It's evident the thought and efforts that have gone into this project. And so, as Ms. Oates said, trustees, you have a proclamation in your packet, and so we're recommending that you support the efforts by proclaiming the week of December 4th through 8th as an inclusive school.
Whereas the Inclusive Schools Network and schools around the world have distinguished the week of December 4th through 8th, 2017 as Inclusive School Week, and whereas the Vernia ISD is committed to providing an education in schools and classrooms that are welcoming and capable of educating all children, and whereas educators of the Vernia ISD recognize that each child is unique, learns differently, and therefore learns better, that teaching is tailored to their abilities and interests. And whereas the educators and families of Vernia ISD have been working hard to ensure that our classrooms and schools are characterized as being high-performing and inclusive, and whereas by their efforts to make our schools and classrooms high-performing and inclusive, the educators and families of Vernia ISD have contributed significantly to building a stronger and more inclusive community. And whereas the educators and families of the Vernia ISD deserve to celebrate their success and to wish to reflect how they may even further improve. Therefore, be it resolved that Vernia ISD join with the Inclusive Schools Network, EDC, and schools districts and communities around the world declaring the week of December 4th through 8th, 2017 as Inclusive School Weeks, and encourage schools and classrooms across the district to sponsor appropriate learning and community building activities in this recognition.
I make a motion that we declare December 4th through the 8th as Inclusive School Week.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you all very much. The next item is a presentation on special education staffing allocation review.
Okay, Ms. Oates, you have some information to share with us.
I do. Special education staffing is one of those conversations that we hold year round. We start out in the early spring, we have conversations about what we think we need, but we know that with special education students who may transfer in and out of the district, those who are identified with disabilities, the needs of the students change, and as such, our staffing has to change. So we're constantly having a conversation about what our staffing allotment should be in our department. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of background of how we make the decision in the beginning as to what staffing we need to have, and then also share some results with you, because we've had Region 20 come out and do an independent review of our staffing as well to make sure that with a fresh set of eyes, they're seeing the same things that we're seeing. So right now in the state of Texas, there is no standard for caseload in special education. That's left up to the local education agency. The findings of any analysis of special ed programs should always be based on student individual needs. So we look at the individualized education plans of students. And then our needs in terms of staffing should fluctuate based on the needs of those students. Region 20 gives us some guidance that tells us that we need to consider carefully and continually the severity of student needs and the types of services that they require. We have to, by law, implement a full continuum of services, meaning everything from a fully self-contained one-on-one setting if necessary to a fully mainstream inclusion setting as well. And then we always have to be mindful of compliance with legal requirements of special education. So what we do in January is to start looking at the individualized education plans of all the students we're currently serving. So we can run an export of reports out of the software system that we use. We use the eStar or eSped software system. We can generate reports that tell us exactly what the IEPs, individualized education plans of students require. We begin looking at those and charting out what that data tells us. Then in February, we start meeting with the different campuses. We meet with the principal, assistant principal, and campus coordinator to talk about what they're seeing as their needs are, what they're anticipating for the next year, and to make sure that we have some consensus on that. And then March through May, we continue to watch the students that we have transferring in and out of the district, as well as those that are having their initial evaluations completed. And then, of course, July through August, we're mindful of those students who are transferring into the district. So it is a continual process. When we review the IEPs, we do those by campus. The first thing we do is to look at the amount of inclusion time, meaning specialized instruction that takes place within the general education classroom that requires an additional staff member to be present to do that. So it may be a teacher or it may be a paraprofessional that's required to provide that support. And then we also look at the amount of time for specialized instruction. Specialized instruction takes place in the special education setting outside of the general education classroom. We also use a template that's generated by Region 20 to help us look at the students from a different lens, looking at them through a weighted measure, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Then we compare those two sources of data that we have to see what kinds of continuity we have there, or if there's something that stands out that we may not have seen in a review of the IEPs that we see when we talk about the students more individually on the weighting. And then we meet with the staff to talk about, or with the staff of the campus, the leadership, to talk about what their current staffing is, and if that staffing is enough to support the needs of the students in the year to come. So when we look at the review of IEPs by campus, we basically create an Excel spreadsheet, and this is just a sample, where we list every single student, and then we put the amount of time or minutes of instruction specified in their IEP that's taking place in the special education classroom and the general ed classroom, and we do that by grade level, by content area. So every single support that they need, including related services, is charted out. And then we do a simple tally, let's say for 7th grade reading instruction, how many minutes of in-class support do we have to provide? And so that gives us a very, very basic look at what staff absolutely has to be in place to provide the actual instruction. It does not account for any of the other services that teachers do, but it just accounts for that actual instruction. Then we also go through and we look at the weighted needs of students. Region 20 provides us with an Excel spreadsheet that is a form field where you put the student's name in. And then you're looking at 3 different things for each student. You're looking at the service time needs of the student, meaning the actual instruction. You're looking at the level of instructional support, how much support do they need to be successful during instruction, and their behavioral support. And all students are rated 0, 1, or 2. 0 meaning that they're independent or need very intermittent services, just sporadic support. 1 meaning they need frequent assistance, and 2 meaning they need one-to-one assistance. So these are things that we have to talk to the campus coordinators about, because on paper, it's hard to tell how much actual redirection and prompting and cueing takes place within those settings for those students to be able to function. So when you chart that out, you get the numbers and you divide it out, and it tells you how many adults it takes to provide that service. It doesn't specify teacher or para. That's something for us to look at. We also consider the amount of preparation time that's required, preparing for art meetings, preparing IEPs, progress reports, those sorts of things. Directing the work of paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals are only allowed to work with special education students under the direct supervision of a teacher. So if a paraprofessional is going into the classroom to provide support, we have to document the direct supervision time that the teacher provides that paraprofessional, be it through collaboration and direct instruction on what to do with the students from a general ed teacher, or actually within the classroom from that general ed or special ed teacher that's there with the para. We also look at IEP management responsibilities. That goes back to the goal writing and progress reporting, and then any other assignments for our lower grade levels. A lot of our paraprofessionals provide lunch duty monitoring as well, and so we have to take that amount of time out, because you're looking at anywhere from an hour to 2 hours of their day that is spent supervising the lunchroom rather than providing instruction. So we have to consider all of those things in order to determine what the best allocation might be for the campus. We meet with the campuses. We talk about the individual students. We look at their campus schedule, because the best laid plans on paper are great until you start putting it into a master schedule. And sometimes when you start laying out when 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade go to specials, or when you're looking at the junior high and you're trying to coordinate athletics and band with the junior high and high school in one set of facilities, and it becomes a much more tricky situation to map that out. And then we also look at their current staffing allocations. What do you have on your campus right now? Is that sufficient to do that, or do we need to make some moves? And we found last year, for example, that because of a change where students had moved up to the high school, the junior high actually had one full staffing allocation that they were over, and we were able to move that allocation down to the intermediate school to provide services for an individual student who needed that support at that campus. This year, we also asked Region 20 to come in and do a full review of our staffing, of our special education, to make sure that they were seeing the same things that we were seeing when we look at our information. They looked specifically at compliance with IEPs, student individualized education plans first. So they wanted to make sure that we are providing the services that we say we're going to provide in that student's IEP, because legally that's what we're held accountable to. They were also looking for areas of flexibility to tell us whether or not we still had wiggle room or room to work with our staff should we get new students to the district, or have students who qualify for services that may be in the intervention process that need more support than what we're currently able to give them. Where are the flexible pieces? And then also looking at whether or not we needed additional staff, or where we had staff available to provide additional services. So those findings are being reviewed with campuses, with the principals, assistant principals, campus coordinators, and Mr. Askins indicated earlier tonight that he's been through a similar review with his district, and they put up butcher paper on the wall. They chart out every single child, every single staff member. It's color-coded by content area, and so it would take up this entire room to put all 4 campuses up right now for you to look at. But those charts are left with the principals on each campus so that they can see where gaps may be or where flexibility may be as well. They're looking, and this graphic just kind of shows you, they're looking at the student IEP needs, what is specified that we're going to do. They're looking at the individual staff schedules. And so what they're saying is this student needs 45 minutes of inclusion. This is the staff member that's in that room at that time that's able to provide that service. And then they're looking to see where there are overlaps, making sure we're compliant. Is there flexibility, or is there availability to move some staff around to provide the supports if we were missing some? So the findings were very simple on what Region 20 did. The first thing that they noted to us is that the staffing on each campus is adequate to meet the needs of all students as it is currently identified in their IEP. So that's another conversation. When campuses say to me, we need more staff to serve this student, my question is, tell me what you're not able to do right now that you need to do. So let's see what portion of the IEP that we're not able to provide for, because we're legally required to provide what's in the IEP, but we're also legally required to provide an IEP that is reflective of the student's true needs. So we have to make sure that our IEP is comprehensive enough to show a true picture of that student. I like to tell staff that I want it to pass the stranger test. If that student were to pick up and move to a new district tomorrow, where no one in that district knew them, can they pick up that piece of paper and know exactly what to do with that student? And if our IEPs aren't that clear, then we need to go back and clarify those things. The second thing that they found was that there is flexibility within the schedules of the special education staff on each campus, meaning that based on student IEPs, based on current staffing assignments, there is room to move still and room to provide additional supports for students that may come in. There were some slight adjustments that needed to be made to make sure that we were compliant with IEP requirements, and this was specifically geared towards guidance from TEA's compliance division. TEA does not like to see an IEP that says that we'll provide 30 minutes per week. They want to know 30 minutes per week for what, or they want to know specifically how many minutes per day per week. So there were some things we had to adjust to make sure that we were more prescriptive in that. They wanted to read much more like a prescription for medication would than what some of the weekly or bi-weekly things said. So we had to make a few adjustments, but again, there was flexibility in the schedules to do that. And the last finding was that all 4 campus staff schedules currently provide support and assistance beyond that is required in the IEPs, meaning that we have flexibility in our current staff schedules based on current student IEPs that we're actually able to provide more support than what is required. And it's always okay to over-support students, provide more than what is required by their IEP. It's never okay to provide less than what's required by their IEP. So certainly this is something that we watch all the time. We have many students who are in the evaluation process right now. And based on those students' qualifications, if they're determined to be eligible, then we may have to maneuver some staff a little bit. We may have to look at that staffing and see where we might need to provide additional support on the campus. It just depends on each particular campus, depends on the grade level of the students and what their particular IEP development says. But we do look at it continually, and we are quickly approaching that January mark where we'll start looking at next year as well. Any questions?
It is now 8:03, we'll convene into closed session. Oh, yeah, sorry. We're going to go into closed session regarding, 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, private consultation with the board's attorney regarding legal issues related to the personnel matters, 551.074, personnel matters, deliberations and discussion concerning renewal and hiring of new district employees, the regular personnel report involving resignations and other personnel actions not requiring a board action pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with the attorney regarding legal issues concerning superintendent search process, search consultant, and timeline pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with the attorney regarding legal status of litigation matter, John and Jane Doe as next friends of child Doe, a minor versus Vernia Independent School District, civil action number 517 CV 1195, United District 4, Western District of Texas, San Antonio Division. Discuss and consider personnel matters and recommendations.